What kind of witty banter do you have this week, Zach?
I told you, no witty banter.
No
Not
witty,
this time.
We're not doing it? We're
I hate
serious.
that. We're serious.
Welcome to Talking Upstream, where now we are 100% serious 100% of the time.
Serious Dylan.
All right,
serious Zach only. Anyway, that opening song is so cool.
So good.
Every time I hear it, I'm like, this is really good. Special thanks to Jared Gleason for making that song. It is really, really cool. And we try to work it into everything we do.
It's good enough that we talk about him before we introduce who we are or what the show is.
That's true. It's just such a good song. Okay, anyway, so my name is Zach, and this is Dylan over here. He's on the other camera. We are Some Nobodies. This is our website right here. And what you're watching is Talking Upstream. And Talking Upstream is a 90-minute writer's room style show where Dylan and I kind of figure out how to make a concept that we're probably going to turn into a podcast or something.
Probably.
If you know us, we make a lot of shows. We have shows like Silicon Angels. We have a show called Podcast, a podcast show where we review bad podcasts and other podcasts that aren't bad.
Podcasts and podcast accessories.
Yeah, bad name.
Yeah.
Either way, we got about 12 shows going on, and the way that we create shows is that I come to Dylan with a very stupid idea, and then Dylan helps me turn it into something that's actually kind of creative. People started watching our meetings and sitting in our meetings and said it was pretty clever, and that they would not mind watching us do this anyway. So we decided to turn this into a show. So what the show is that Dylan comes to the table with an idea, I come to a table with an idea, and usually we figure out which one to work on.
Yeah.
That got kind of hard for us because my ideas are very good and Dylan is a brat. So what we did was we decided to have a guest. It's okay.
I'm adjusting my earphones. Don't worry about
I thought you were home aloneing it. So we decided to have a guest come on and actually help us pick this thing to go through. We have a great guest today. Do you want to introduce the guest?
Yeah. So please give a welcome hand wherever you are to Mike from the podcast Wack Brackets. Guess I'll provide a hand. Yeah.
Hey, how you guys doing today?
Hello, Mike. How are you?
Doing well.
Doing great. Thank you for having me. This is exciting.
Oh, right on. Dude, it looks so great where you are.
Yeah.
Where are you located? We're in Colorado. Where are you located?
I'm just outside of Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, nice.
Right on. Are you like on a porch? It looks so cool there.
This is an enclosed porch, yes. I was fortunate enough before we went on our kind of semi-lockdown to have my porch enclosed, which has been excellent because this is now my office and kind of where I hang out. But before that, fortunately, I'm not outside. It looks like I'm outside because I used to be outside.
I'm jealous.
Yeah, me too. We're stuck in here. I wish we had an outside thing.
Yeah.
So we met you, Mike, on Instagram first and through your show, Wack Brackets. I don't think that I'll do as good of a job explaining what your show is better than you can. So why don't you go ahead and explain your show and where people can find you?
All righty. Wack Brackets, pretty much what I do is I bracket off different contestants against one another in random contests. For example, I might do pets, and for one round, it might be who would be more likely to cut you off in traffic. Probably the cat. And then that would go on to the next round, and that cat would face whoever won in the first round of a different question. So a cat may face a guinea pig in the second round, and that may be more likely to cut in front of you in line at the Goodwill. So you just kind of have random questions with random contestants, and doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's a lot of fun to talk about and just have random silly arguments. That's what the whole entire podcast is about.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wack Brackets.
We did Cars, which was more car talk than I have done in, I think, the rest of my life combined.
Yeah, that was a lot of car talk, and I'm not good at cars, but I'm pretty sure I won that.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know anything about cars either, so you guys helped me get through it, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for being on that as well.
Yeah.
Oh no, we had a great time, and luckily Dylan is a big Ford fan, so
it
gave me some fodder. So the reason we have this show is because we're trying to talk our way up to a streaming service. We're trying to create something that somebody would want to buy, so we go to Hulu or Netflix. If there was a pinnacle or a peak to Wack Brackets, like an ideal goal, where would you like to take Wack Brackets?
I've never really thought about that. That's a great question. Where would I like to take Wack Brackets? As far as I can. Honestly, just having on podcasters and really just getting to know people has been a lot of fun for me. I would love to have more listeners. I think we all would. But as far as really what my goal is, have fun, just reach out, be fun with the audience, and hopefully engage people in silly conversations. So I hopefully am doing that. And if I'm not, then tell me and I'll try to do a better job.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, we also we listened to a podcast that you were on, a different podcast that's actually on our show a couple weeks ago, Puzzled Minds. And that show that you were on with them was a pretty good show. Of all the crazy questions that you've come across while interviewing people or talking to people, what was some of the weirdest stories that you've heard while interviewing a different podcaster?
Wow. On air or off air? I guess that's a different story. Yeah. You know what? As far as weird stories, I'll tell you some of the fun things I found is the great thing about interviewing podcasters or interviewing anyone, especially from different locations, is you just come across things you didn't know existed. For example, have you guys ever heard of a long Furby?
A long Furby?
Are you talking about like the thing on the internet where people will centipede Furbies together?
Kind of, sort of, yes. What they do is they take the face of a Furby and they make it very long. I'd never heard of any of these things, and they will pretty much haunt your dreams if you look them up. They're scary as all get out. So long story short, I think one of the more interesting things, and I had a couple of guests on from Phil and Nadia's Unreal Prognosis. They're great people. And long and short of it is Phil dropped this long Furby during one of my Wack Brackets. I'd never heard of it. I instantly looked it up, and I've been scarred for life because of it. So if your viewers have never seen a long Furby, please look one up. It's equal parts traumatizing and hilarious.
Yeah, I think Dylan just
I
looked
just
at
did.
it.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Oh,
It's
do I need to look at it?
nah,
All right, cool. I'm not going.
not on the air. We won't be able to do the show.
You got a question?
Yeah. So I mean, you make up a whole bunch of brackets every episode. You put together a whole thing. Do you have any brackets in real life that are not yours, which you follow March Madness, fake March Madness that your workplace might put together?
Royal Rumble.
Yes, that's sort of thing. The Wimble.
You know what? I really don't anymore. I used to be a big fan of sports. I ended up just getting too busy to follow sports and whatnot as much as I used to. But I did always like the bracketing concept. I always found that to be interesting, just the way it works out. I'm a math nerd, so I always I learned mathematics honestly from when I was a child, figuring out the numbers that actually worked in brackets. If you used a 2x2, you realize you go to 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. If you used 3x3, it was like 3, 9, 27, 81. So yeah, I just kind of it always intrigued me how you could take different sets of numbers and ultimately get them down to one. And as far as do I follow any in particular, not really. I just enjoy the concept. So that's about it.
All right.
I guess the NFL, when the NFL playoffs get down to it, I'm a Saints fan, so I will watch my Saints play in the NFL playoffs. Otherwise,
All right.
kind of bracket it out.
In any of your episodes, is there a particular contestant you feel was unfairly cheated out of a victory? Is there anyone that you really went for that your guest might have disagreed with?
It seems like every episode, the thing that I learn is that I come up with this great idea of how this bracket's going to go out. I lay them out somewhat so the questions will make sense. And usually in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, well, this is how it's going to lay out. But then it doesn't. I think probably the episode that I won't say I was most disappointed in, because that's not true, because I had a great time. I had on podcasters from several episodes I had an election special, but it was old politicians. It was previous presidents. And one of the questions, I can't recall the actual question, but I remember being very, very much in Chester Arthur's court, and William Taft won the question. It was one of those where we ended up having a long discussion. I think it may have been something about beer drinking. I don't recall. Long story short is I believe that Chester Arthur deserved to win and William Taft won. And yeah, it was unfortunate. And they gave Taft, I think the thing that bothered me, and I love all the podcasters, but they gave Taft the win because of his size. But in reality, Chester Arthur should have been the winner. So.
It's not often you come across somebody that's really rooting for Chester A. Arthur.
No. Or talking about him at all.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Two-time president, though.
Yeah.
Not consecutive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, weird.
I think the only one.
The only one.
I think so.
So you have to create cool brackets, and you got to obviously, I guess, go through the storyline of how these brackets are going to go down. Do you ever get into a creation sense where you're writing stories or creating fiction for any reason?
Not outside of the Wack Brackets. What I do is I actually cheat a little bit, as I think most podcasters do. Is I used to go in kind of go in free will and try to just let everything fly. And the thing you realize about letting things fly is your creativity can only take you so far, especially if you're kind of in a corner you didn't expect. You try to talk yourself out of it, but it helps to have a few notes. So a lot of times when I'm creating these brackets, I come up with at least a storyline, and I'll keep, here's one of my old brackets right now where I'll come up with my A's and my B's, and then if these guys go through, how it's going to go through with that. So yeah, I'm sort of creating all the stories as I'm going along and trying to run the permutations through my head. I don't get them all, but by and large, I'm almost creating a story for every question, and if this one wins and this one. So yeah, as far as do I write outside of that, no. I tend not to be overly creative to begin with, so this is about all of the creativity I can muster up. Outside of that, I like to sleep a lot and eat some.
Yeah, I respect that.
Classic. Do you listen to podcasts also? Like, obviously, you're creating them. I know you're on Puzzle Minds and other podcasts. Yeah. Is there any that you listen to that are your go-tos?
Yeah, right now, probably my favorites is a couple of my favorites is I do like the Center Cut. Those guys are fabulous. They're hilarious. I love Trashy. They're a great podcast. Yeah. And as far as kind of, those are all independent podcasts. I've listened to some of your guys, the a podcast about podcasts, I think is the name of it, which absolutely cracks me up. I'm equal parts horrified for you guys to have me on that podcast, as well as curious to see what you would say about my podcast. but with that said, I love listening to indie podcasters. I think by and large, they tend to be more real. There are a few I like. I think All Fantasy Anything is probably my go-to kind of. It's a headgum podcast. It's pretty mainstream. And a couple of MMA podcasts, Believe You Me with Michael Bisping and Luis Gomez. I love those, but by and large, I stick to the indie stuff. That's what I really like.
Yeah. So going back to your show, is there a bracket that you've wanted to put together but haven't really either found an opportunity to use, or you're not sure that you will use? Like, is there something you really want to cover that you haven't done yet?
Maybe. I would say this. I try to keep the brackets. If somebody comes in with an idea, as long as I can do enough research on it, I'll tend to follow up with whatever the guest wants, because every episode I have guests on pretty much. So if I'll say, what do you want to do? And I'll try to, if I'm not super familiar with it, I'll do whatever they want to do. As far as what I would like to do, I've started limiting some of my podcasts down to 4 contestants. I used to do 8. And the nice thing about 4 contestants is I found it hard, especially with the 8 contestants, because what would happen is sometimes you have a great idea, but when you say we need 8 of these to make this work, you can't get 8. And an upcoming episode, fortunately, was one that when I was trying to come up with 8 companies, we're going to do evil tech companies. So trying to come up with 8 evil tech companies and make a fun bracket out of it was difficult. But when you limit it down to 4, you can roll those off the top of your head. So, So the good news is I'm not against doing any bracket. As you've probably seen, I'll do brackets about, I had Thanksgiving food. I did cars. I'll do anything. So as far as, is there one that I'm looking forward to? That was one that I was looking forward to that I really couldn't get my head around until we limited it down to 4. And so we'll have an evil tech company bracket. I think it'll be the first one for Wack Brackets this upcoming year. But yeah, whatever. I will literally bracket off any and everything. No shame.
I was going to say, how do you only limit it to 8?
Yeah.
How do you limit it? Not how do you come up with 8?
Right.
But
limit it.
Yeah. Hey, that's just me.
Yeah, well, it depends. Sometimes it's I
guess for the tech companies, there are only 4 of them.
Yeah, there's not many. I think the trick is that you want companies that make a good bracket. As I mentioned, it's a lot of times I try to set the questions up where the first round, especially with the 8 bracket, what works for these 2 competitors may not work for these 2 competitors. And you kind of have to set it up where the matches are interesting. And then the second round, the matches are interesting. You have to leave the third round in the 8 question brackets where it's pretty open-ended. So whoever comes through, you have a pretty open dialogue. So there's kind of a dance that you have to do with it. But yeah, it's like you mentioned, sometimes I'll have presidents was a great one where actually I did 4x4 brackets in that one because we had so many. So I ended up with I think 16 ex-presidents and a 4x4. So you just change things up and see what works, see what sticks. And I think you guys know that from the kind of stuff you do. Sometimes you have a great idea and it just falls flat. And sometimes you think this won't work. And then you'll get a response back from somebody go, wow, that was really a lot better than I expected. Thanks for putting that out there. So.
Yeah. So you have a lot of people in there that are fighting for something to win a category. Has there been like a fight that's kind of gone almost overboard, or like a fight that's kind of got like pretty explosive? Any of those kind of interesting fights?
No, and I think the reason is primarily I will get on, just like I did with you guys. I will get on podcasters that already have a rapport. I listen to the podcast beforehand. My podcast can get a little R-rated, which that being said is we do, we'll kind of fight each other. I'll fight whoever, but it's all in good fun. I make sure that the people I bring on, I try to vet them pretty well. I've had some people reach out. I'll listen to podcasts usually a lot of times, and I'll reach out to the people like I did with Tad and June for Puzzled Minds. I listen to those guys, and they argue with each other all the time on the show, but it's very friendly and it's very fun. So I really try to limit it to that. And I think it was great, my episode with the election podcast, because I knew all of those people well and I'd had them on the show and I trusted them all. But I would be leery to bring in podcasters that I don't have a history with and kind of add that dynamic, that cross dynamic, because sometimes you just don't know what you're going to get. But fortunately, like I said, with you guys, I brought on known elements. You guys know how you're interacting with each other. I'm impossible to upset for the most part. So I try to keep it pretty light.
We've learned the importance of vetting guests and our appearances on other people's shows in the past.
Yeah, early on, we would just say yes to a lot of things, and we would get asked the weirdest questions of like, we got to start doing some research on this. Yeah. We can't show up on everybody's show. There's some pretty bad stuff out there. Is there a topic that you are very close to that you will not do a bracket on because you don't want people to talk bad about it?
No, I'm really open towards people talking about anything. The one thing I think that you guys mentioned that you don't like on the show, and I don't like on my show, is political talk. I find that to be exhausting and just not very entertaining or interesting for the most part. So I think everybody's close to politics to some degree, whether they want to be or not. I don't find that to be interesting, and I don't like it. But as far as everything else, there's humor to be found just about everywhere, as long as you're willing to accept it and be open to the fact that you have to have an open mind. But no, as far as being close to a topic or anything and having a problem with putting it on there and having people make fun of it or rib at it, I'm an open book. I really have. Yeah. It just doesn't bother me. I've got pretty thick skin. I've been in customer service long enough that literally I've been called every name in the book so many times that there's nothing generally that anyone can do to offend me. So yeah.
Oh
yeah, no that.
Yeah, I'm pretty close to that. I think if they call me boring, I'd be upset. Yeah, that'd be it. Just boring is one of the few things.
I mean, whatever they call me, I'd have to respect their opinion for it to matter at all. So yeah. So you're talking about people fighting on your show. If you had to choose a podcast to fight, which one would you choose?
I'll choose a podcast to fight. You know what? I guess because I fight with these guys all the time in a great way, it would probably be the Center Cut. I love those guys, and since it would be a 2-on-1, I would probably lose. I don't have a lot of podcasts I listen to that has a solo podcaster, and I would be a terrible podcast as a solo podcaster, which is why I bring on guests. So I'm going to be at a disadvantage unless I can find a couple of 8 or 9-year-olds that podcast. Maybe I'd have a chance against them. That's one of those old questions about how many 5-year-olds could you fight? There's whatever it is. So I'm not sure I could defeat too many, but long and short of it is it's be the Center Cut guys, because they always bring a really interesting podcast. If it was one podcast, there is one guy, the Mustachio Podcastio, Daniel. I think he's about the only single podcaster I listen to. So if it's not the Center Cut, it's Daniel.
Well, we have a special guest. Let's bring on now.
Let's bring on this fight. We find that podcasters that have an interesting show, not just shows where they're just kind of talking about Star Wars or whatever, but we find that a lot of podcasters are interesting to talk to because they've experienced a lot throughout their life. And a lot of podcasters experience some pretty big failures also. do you want to talk about like a big failure that you've gone through, or is there something that?
Yeah, actually, I don't mind. I think that's the one thing, and not to try to sound grandiose or anything, is to me, there's no failure in trying. And even if something doesn't succeed the way you planned it to, you learn something from it. And probably my biggest failure is I have had online games. I've written online games since my late 20s. I've actually written games my entire life, primarily computer games. And I have an online horse racing game called derbyfever.com. I have a lot of users on it, but I wrote a football game and I thought it would be very successful. I was convinced it was going to be successful since my horse racing game has a pretty unique audience and very passionate audience. I was like, I can do the same thing for football. But I think what I didn't take into account is the competition. There's not a lot of competition to write a horse racing game. You realize that it's a very kind of a niche product, whereas everybody writes a football game. And I went through thinking that maybe I was better, maybe the wrong word, but maybe I figured things out better than other people. And I realized relatively quickly that the football game was twice as much work and not nearly as much fun and a lot more headache. And yeah, so I spent a lot of time. I probably spent a good year and a half developing that game and getting it on the market, thinking that I was really had the best game since sliced bread. Not that sliced bread's a very good game, but if it were. But that being said, it was an utter complete failure on my behalf. The game still exists, and it's run by a very passionate guy that still runs the game, and he does a great job with it. But it was a game that I thought would be a lot more successful financially and kind of have traction, and it just wasn't.
Well, yeah, we definitely know that, like, obviously failures kind of wrap around your successes, and like you said, it's just you're trying, and failure is not a failure; it's just a side success or whatever.
Yeah. There is no shame in failure. There is no shame in failure. There's only a shame in not trying.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Now on the opposite end, some success stories. It seems like everyone we talk to also has a celebrity run-in where they've met a celebrity, they've seen a celebrity, they have a story about a celebrity that is unique to them. Do you have a celebrity story?
You know what? I don't, as bad as that sounds. I was actually asked this question at work recently. They have something where you fill out, hey, you had a celebrity run in. What's your most notable celebrity run in? And I literally, the best I could come up with, really wasn't a run in. There's a small band. They had a kind of a hit song in the 90s from Chicago named Local H. And their singer, I've been to several of the shows, and I talked to him kind of at the merch booth, and not like anybody's lining up to see him very often or anything. But no celebrity run-ins. I'm just not very interesting. I don't get out of the house much. This whole lockdown thing really hasn't changed my day-to-day life too much.
Yeah, I can relate.
Yeah. Dylan's been on lockdown for like the last 8 years.
Oh, it's great. Suckers.
Now we are nerd fans. We live and bathe in nerd culture, and another thing we found out is that everyone we talk to also has a love to some degree of Batman. Batman has been in everyone's life since they were born, unless you were older than, I think, 90?
Ooh, it's a while now.
30s or whatever. So in your opinion, I haven't gotten anything off you that says that you're like a big nerd or a Batman fan, but do you have a favorite Batman or version of Batman?
You know what? I do know Batman, and I was always more Team Marvel than Team DC. As far as the Batman movies, if there was a favorite version of the Batman, so to speak, then it'd probably just be Michael Keaton, because he was the one I was most familiar with. I really haven't kept up a lot with the newer Batman movies. I do know that Ben Affleck is terrible as Batman, it seems. But as far as my favorite Batman, the Batman comics that I was familiar with are probably the ones that were Batman got grittier. I think that's the thing, is early on Batman, of course, with his parents being murdered in the alley. That's a pretty dark backstory. And some of those early ones with the Joker. But I think when I was growing up and I had comic books, there was definitely a very specific time, I think, where Comic Book Code of America became a big thing. And a lot of those comics became somewhat cheesy. DC particularly was a lot more cheesy than Marvel for a spell. And I think that's why I gravitated towards Marvel. So really, I never got back into the DC universe. I was always... And if you want to hear my opinion on Spider-Man and Iron Man, I don't like that Iron Man is the center of the Marvel universe now, because I grew up as Spider-Man was the center of my Marvel universe. So I'm not even a big Avengers fan, the movies, because to me, you couldn't have Marvel without Spider-Man. So for having all that time, they tried to build a universe without Spider-Man. It fell flat for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, and you've mentioned one of our shows, a podcast show, where we try to find very, very bad podcasts and some good podcasts too. But bad podcasts. What would you say is the worst podcast idea you can think of?
The worst podcast idea I could think of. I won't say it's the worst idea I could think of, but there's so many true crime podcasts. I find that to be kind of morbid curiosity, especially when they mention real people's names and things of that nature, and things that people would probably rather forget. And you'll see a podcast, and I do know some true crime podcasters, and hopefully I don't offend them with this, but I find it, at least in my opinion, somewhat to be in bad taste to be bringing up things that only happened several years ago, investigations that are still ongoing, and to be kind of an amateur sleuth and come up with these amateur theories because you read some articles. Is that a bad podcast idea? No, because they get a great amount of listeners. So I guess technically they're doing a lot better than I am, most likely. But I don't like those sorts of podcasts. I'm not sure if that's the exact answer you were looking for. If you want a really bad answer, maybe a clown podcast where you interview clowns in character. I have no idea. That'd probably be pretty rough.
There's definitely a layer of like voyeurism to certain true crime podcasts. That's why I'm not a huge fan of the true crime. I like the stuff that talks about conspiracy theories and cryptids. And that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's great stuff.
Fun. Yeah. I think all that started with Rotten.com. It was like one of the first websites. I think that was it. When people
it was for shock website.
Hey, I think I'm interested in death. Okay, well, obviously, we're talking your ear off. We love you, Mike. Obviously, we had a great time on your show. I don't want to take up too much of your time, so we're going to get to, I guess, our part of the show, if that's okay.
Yeah, perfect.
So what this part of the show is this is where Dylan and I bring a very weird or stupid sometimes idea or question to the table and then see if we can work this into a movie, comic book, TV, board game, something. And because we don't want to make that decision anymore, you're going to do it for us. Now, last week, my suggestion that did not get picked was we ended up calling it Murder AMA. And what the idea is that a guy wanted to have a movie made about his life. So he decided to create the 100 best movie murders. And he started recreating these movie murders. And then through Reddit, they kind of help him help catch him before. So think of like 7 meets Reddit and movie murders. So So I'm going to call it Murder AMA because that's a very Reddit.
It's a good title.
Yeah, it's a very Reddit thing. And I think this guy's going to want to get caught. So 100 best movie murders.
Recreated for Reddit.
Reddit.
And then I had this thought over the course of this last week. I was talking to a friend at work, and we were just kind of talking about genie wishes and the obvious if you had 3 genie wishes, with the standard rules, what would you wish? And one of the ideas was, I wish that anytime I reached into my pocket, I could get exactly what I needed at the moment. So it's like you need some change for the bus, pocket. Enough change. You need, I don't know, some floss or something, or a nail clipper. You got it right there for you. And then the idea is turned to, well, what if one day you reached into your pocket and you pulled out a gun?
Oh.
Or something simple, or a knife. A big, obvious, not a utility knife, but a knife.
Right. So this thing gives you what you need. You just don't know why you need it.
Not necessarily. Yeah. Oh, you kind of you make the assumption oh, here, a nail clipper. I've got a hangnail. Then you reach in and you pull out a Glock or something. It's
okay.
Why do I need this?
What are you gonna call this?
I don't know. Swiss Army Genie.
Dark Genie. Swiss Army Genie.
Dark Genie. I don't know.
Oh, all right. All right.
Dark Genie.
Get rid of that. Oh God.
$sign Dark Genie.
Yeah, there we go. Because it's on Twitch, so that's for the kids now. $sign Dark Genie. Dark Genie. That's probably not the best name.
No, it's not. We'll figure out. We don't need the title now.
Yeah, but that's a very interesting thing. Yeah. Okay, so Mikey from Wack Brackets, you need to pretty please choose one of these 2 stories and hopefully see if Dylan and I can turn one of these things into something. So which one would you like to see?
Man, I don't know. It depends. If I'm MC Hammer and I've got very big pants and very big pockets, this Dark Genie show is going to go some crazy places. So you know what? The Murder AMA show sounds decent, but I'm gonna go with the Dark Genie.
All right.
Two in a row.
Yeah.
Good job, man.
About time.
Okay, Dark Genie.
We had to give me a pity choice on our Summit episode because I lost 5 times in a row.
Dude, that was one of our best episodes, though. But I'm going to stand by that. Okay, Mike, so before we get into this thing, real quick, do you want to tell people what your show is, where they can find you, et cetera, pitch anything, sell me something?
Sure. You know what? I'll tell you where you can reach me. You can reach me on all the social media platforms at Wack Brackets, because that's my podcast name. And I was fortunate enough to get them on all the media platforms, the Instagrams and the Tweeters and the Facebooks. And you can also reach out to me at email. You can send it to anything at wackbrackets.com. You can honestly send it to darkgenie@wackbrackets.com. I'll get that. Seriously, anything at wackbrackets.com, I will get. And yeah, just check out my episodes if you get a chance. Obviously, check out the episode with my boys here, with Dylan and Zach. And that was the Cars episode. But we have a lot of episodes from other indie podcasters. Have fun with everybody. I haven't had one bad guest on it yet. So if nothing else, I'm having a good time. But yeah, check it out. That's where you can reach me on all the social media platforms and all places that good and especially bad podcasts are served.
Yeah, all right.
Excellent. Yeah, so please go check out Wack Brackets if you're a fan of any kind of really interesting podcast, not just people talking about Star Wars, which is annoying. Now, Mike, we're going to spend the next hour figuring out what the story is. We would actually love it if you could hang out with us and figure this out and try to make it a more interesting story, since I talk to Dylan all the time. That is cool. So before we get into this, quick thank yous, right?
Yeah.
International Broadcast Media Television, IBM TV. Thank you guys very much for having us on here and letting us ramble and chat and talk to our friend Mike sometimes. Special thanks to some other people, Scott Curtis and his show Behind the Bits. Awesome dude, great podcaster.
Yeah.
Is an award-winning interviewer.
Quite literally.
Right now. Yeah, which is cool. And if you're in a podcast, you can always go to listener app. So just go to Instagram at The Greatest Podcast App. That's a very cool one. If you want to see the words instead of just hear things, if you want to remember people's jokes, remember the thing, go to listener app. You ready to get into this?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, cool. So Dark Genie.
Yeah.
Not a good name.
No, but we'll find something else for it.
Yeah, that was my. I don't know why I said that.
I said that. I'm pretty sure.
I'm not sure.
Did
why
you say that? I don't know.
I don't know why you said that. It was a bad name. Anyway, okay. So your
I
idea.
almost started out with Swiss Army Pants, though. I kind of liked that one.
Swiss Army Pants is pretty good.
Swiss Army Pants is actually a way better name.
Swiss Army Wish.
Swiss Army Wish.
Swiss Army Pants is pretty good.
All right, we'll keep that because
Yeah.
that's way better than.
We'll
Dark
use
Genie
that to refer. We'll refer to it as that in this episode at least.
All right, Swiss Army Pants. Cool. Okay, so the idea is that a person finds I guess like a lamp.
Yeah,
right?
I assume we don't need to do anything too revolutionary with the genie idea.
So it's a genie.
Yeah.
They find a lamp with a genie.
Yeah.
In it, and the first wish they have is, I wish that I would always have whatever I needed when I reached into my pocket.
Yeah, I always have what I need on my person.
Okay, that's a cool wish. So we know as far as characters go, we have a person and a genie as for right now. So we got character one, and then we got our genie. Now, what kind of story is this? Like a movie? What do you see?
It could be a movie. I think I'm not seeing it as episodic, unless it's like every episode he pulls it. Unless we do the mystery every episode where he like finds something weird in the pocket and he goes, "What do I need this for?" And then the 22-minute episode is him using it.
So I mean, magical CSI doesn't sound too bad.
Not bad.
But I don't like that.
But I think we take Magic CSI and we do that on a different episode.
Yeah, write that down.
We'll write that down.
Mike, so do you see this as a standalone movie, or do you see this as a series, or maybe a comic or a cartoon? This seems like a movie for some reason to me.
Initially I was thinking movie, but after the kind of the procedural idea, I think there is some quality to be had there, because it does, like we said, you pull in. Of course, the first episode is probably very similar. It's just the introductory, so you reach in, you're pulling up floss, etc., as was said, and then at the end of the first episode, you pull out the gun, and it's like, oh my goodness. Then you go on to the second episode, and why did I need the gun? And then. So cool. I can see at least several several episodes, and then it could be very procedural. It could be 2 or 3 episodes, but you reach in, like you said, and you pull out. I'm trying to think of what you might pull out, something ridiculous. How about deodorant? But you smell yourself and you realize I have no idea, just random things. And then you're trying to figure out the entire episode. Why do I need this? And you find out actually it wasn't deodorant at all. It was something hidden in the deodorant that looked like something else. But the deodorant allowed you to get it past security at a certain checkpoint. something like that, to where you may not even know what you have until the end of the episode. And
It's like deodorant, but it's got like a key shoved into the
Yeah,
deodorant or something.
exactly.
Oh,
Something like that, to where you end up with these kind of random things that lead to, why do I need this? And and then the third or fourth episode of that happens early on. You're probably going to dig through the entire thing and try to figure out, well, there's something in here because now I've got something that looks typical or similar, and then you can't find anything. But because you tore that up, you find out later on that you got something on your hand that allowed you to grip something tighter because you need just kind of weird. I have no idea.
Right.
No, this is great.
I'm gonna go on record and say you should start writing some stories.
Yeah.
You're intriguing. This is cool. Usually.
Okay.
Yeah, Dylan leads me often, and you got some really cool ideas.
Do we want to say then like a limited series?
That's what I was
Yes.
We seem to be building towards the idea that he is constantly finding things that help him commit crimes, or it seems like we're leading in kind of like a shadowy direction.
The way that he makes it seem, which is a very cool idea, is that it seems like he's the bad guy, but he's finding things that help him actually solve something at the end of it. I think like a mini series makes sense. So you cap it like 6 to 8 episodes.
Yeah,
six hour and a half, like a BBC style 6 90-minute episodes.
Yeah, I think six episodes actually sounds really cool for this.
Maybe a 1.5 length one, so you can hit 10 hours of screen time over 6 episodes or something.
Yeah, we'll do 2 longer, like
at
the end and the middle. So this will be episode
this is very
3 here.
very BBC-ish.
Yeah,
I like that. I like the Sherlock Holmes stuff. That's cool. Okay, so it's got to start episode 1, right? We have this character, and what is this character doing? Why do they find this genie bottle?
So it depends on how fish out of water we want him to be. If we want him to have a day-to-day gig where he might have to deal with this normally, that would help justify, like, I got to sneak this key through whatever security I have. But if he's just an average guy, we would need a reason for why he needs to do this. You know what I mean?
Well, I think first we need to find out why this person, maybe he, comes across this thing.
Yeah.
Whether it's accidental or he's like an archaeologist, which I hate already.
Nah, I'm not into that.
Maybe he bought something on eBay and there was something inside of that.
We did a thrift store like last week.
Have you all ever heard, this is an old eBay legend. It was kind of have you heard of the ghost in jar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
I'm thinking maybe he actually buys the ghost in jar and it turns out to be the genie.
A guy was he had a jar that he claimed had a ghost in it, and it got big attention.
It's like $23,000 or something that went through.
He buys the genie lamp off eBay.
Yeah.
Do we want him to be like? So then, why would he do that?
Why would he do what?
Why would he spend? I'm assuming. I guess I was following the ghost in a jar idea, where it eventually sold for several $1,000s. Yeah. Like, why would this guy spend that much money on a genie lamp?
Well, maybe this is one of those things where he's not the guy that spends the big money. We find out that ghosts do exist in jars, or genies exist in these bottles, etc. And people are running up the cost, and it's crazy, and people are spending money, but they really can't find an instance of it being a real genie, etc. But he's the guy, just out of kind of random sheer curiosity. He's like, maybe he even sees the lamp and he thinks, oh, you know, that's a nice looking vase or whatever. And it's only like 10 cents or 15 cents because it's listed as genie in a vase or genie in a lamp. And nobody believes this anymore. And he buys this thinking it's just a lamp or just a ornament. And he gets it home. He gets it in the mail and he's cleaning it up. And oh my God, genie's out of the bottle. It's not Christina Aguilera.
Buys it off like Facebook Market or something.
Yeah. Or
buys off an internet.
Yeah. I like that.
He accidentally falls into something not meaning to be the person that does it.
Yeah. Now, while you were speaking, I was thinking you were going to go down the plot line of everybody has genies.
I thought so
and,
too.
Like, everybody has money, and this guy's like, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to wish for something that's going to help people. That might be kind of interesting too, where like there's a lot of these things out there.
I've got an idea kind of brewing. I'll bring it up on a future episode. I'm going to add it to the doc.
All right, cool. All right, so we're saying that there's either way, this person has to come across this bottle. So they buy it on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, which is a stupid place, but whatever. Marketplace. And it's just as simple as he's cleaning it and then it comes out, right? It's like, there's no way there's a genie in this thing.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't see why not.
Yeah. So almost an ironic
he doesn't even believe in genies. He just buys it because he thinks it looks cool or it fits his decor. Or maybe he had one already and he's looking for a matching pair. Maybe he has like I don't know, something to where he's trying to put something together.
No, I like that.
Yeah.
Like he's trying to make like a set of lamps or something. Like actual lamps.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or it could be like like in the, what do they have? Like the coffee dispenser things or whatever. And you're trying to put together a fine thing of china and you end up this one thing of china that you don't know has a genie in it. And so, it has the china with the lid. And then you're like, oh, I got to put it in the dishwasher. You open the lid and the genie was stuck in there. Something to that effect.
Yeah. Or he's like, what if he's like a community theater guy and they're putting on a traveling thing of Aladdin and he buys this lamp on Marketplace as a prop.
Yeah.
And he's
I
like,
think
oh
that's
God,
it.
I like that, actually. It's ridiculous.
If he's a theater guy, that gives him an excuse to like have to talk his way past people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I don't know who in the show this is against. And then it's like a weird insular not true crime, but murder mystery kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we're character one. Who is it? So it's an actor in a community theater.
Either an actor or like the prop master.
A prop master.
I think prop master, because then he'd pull all the stuff out of his pocket and be like, "What could I use this for?" Because he's already dealing with objects and like what they could be shown to be used for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike, where do you think in the world this community theater is located?
Let's think. Small town sounds good because always kind of the small town theater. You get it would be interesting. I guess maybe it would be interesting. It's probably overdone, but small town guy ends up with this in his pocket. Suddenly, like you said, he ends up with a gun. There's the mob on the corner coming through. Maybe they're in Decatur, Georgia, and the mob's coming through from Atlanta, and he has to use it to save himself. And the next thing you know, he's in the middle of this large scale gang war or something. And even though he's just this little simple small town guy, now he's put himself directly in the center of something that he had no anticipation of being there.
I like this mafia mob thing in community theater. That's kind of cool. What if like when he gets the gun, it's not something that he has to use, but it's like evidence.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would actually be better. Yeah, I like that.
Better than him just having to use a gun. Yeah.
Well, so instead of him trying to figure out.
Yeah, and it's episode 2 when he actually has the gun. He ends up with it at episode 1. Now he's got the gun. In episode 2, he sees the mob coming, and he thinks the gun is to use to shoot, but then he tries to shoot, but there's no bullets in the gun. So then he runs away with the gun, realizing that, oh my God, this is completely worthless for me. But in reality, it ties up like episode 3 or 4, where it's like the gun was presented and they're after him. So
he's suddenly in hot water because the mob is like, hey, what do you... Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So around here, he tries to use
He doesn't think to check if it's loaded when he pulls it out of his
No,
It's just like, he assumes it's good.
Yeah, just gets scared. Yeah,
Click.
That's cool. So what would you say is the mid-season, like a good cliffhanger mid-season finale for this?
There needs to be an expansion of knowledge.
True.
Halfway through.
Yes, which means I think that he might use his second wish.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
The whole
This
thing
is his first
based around
wish.
his first wish.
No, I forgot about that. That's nice.
Yeah, so maybe at the end of this one, he has to figure out like, okay, now I wish I knew what this was for, or something. So I think the idea of like a second wish here, is cool,
and
right? Good.
Yeah, and he's probably maybe the mafia even has him locked away now, and he pulls this thing out of his pocket, etc. But he has no idea how to use it or what to use it. And he's like, then he has to use the second wish, and it explains to him, like you said, kind of how to get out of the situation that otherwise he couldn't have gotten out of.
And the second wish could let the mafia know that the genie exists.
This could be the only, like, if we want an action scene, this could be the only time where he goes, I wish I knew how to get out of here. And then he pulls out exactly what he needs to escape, or like, something like that. And that's the only time we really see any sort of, I'm imagining this isn't like a big action thing either.
No, I think that he's taking a lot of this on himself and trying to solve a crime that he's thinking is existing. Do you like the idea of him using the second wish in front of the mob to kind of like, because that would make the mob think like, well, now we want this genie.
I like it working to at least get them paying attention to him. Like they're like, who is this? Who is this? How does he know what to do? Like, he knows something. or it shows that he knows something more than they expected.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that if
I'm trying to phrase it.
Yeah, I think if a mob knows about a genie, that's going to push him into a new thing.
Yeah.
Because at first they were trying to cover up a body or something.
I like the idea that the mob just knows that there are genies out there, and he's like, "Hey, this guy's got one."
Yeah.
Something like that.
But, now they want his third wish, so now they're really, maybe at first they were just trying to contain him or whatever. They were like, okay, and then all of a sudden it could even be, because I think the thing is about the second wish is that technically, what are the rules of the wishing? Because in a way, it wouldn't make sense for him to have an item and go, my second wish is to use this, figure out what this item's for. I think, I mean, especially if he's, and this was on me because I said maybe he's trapped by the mafia at this point. Maybe he just wishes out. Maybe he reaches in his pants and there's nothing there because there's nothing that can get him out of this situation. He's trapped by the mafia. He's closed in an enclosed jail that he can't get the key. There's no way out. So he just wishes his way out of the jail.
He leaves the lamp at home when he gets captured and then reaches into his pocket. It's the lamp. And he goes, I wish I was out of here.
Yeah.
My question about the mafia coming after him, genie rules in this universe. Would they only have access to his third wish, or if they have a different person rub the lamp, would they have access to wishes?
Unless this person is special.
Yeah.
Special people get wishes.
What if the genie has I disappear for 100 years every use and then I come back? So one person every 100 years gets 3 wishes, minimal limitations. And then there's another 100 years where that person goes.
Yeah.
Well, what happened 100 years ago? I mean, roaring 20s.
Yeah, that's cool. So one person every 100 years. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, maybe that's like the beginning of episode 4 or whatever, when they see the roaring 20s or whatever and something crazy happens and you're like, how does that even tie back? And then at the end, it's like something happens every 100 years. Because you know how they always do the callbacks, particularly in HBO shows, where you'll be like, why did they even show that flashback screen? But it'll be something at the end that ties it together.
Is it going to be an episode set 100 years ago about the last person who got wishes, and it's like a single episode focusing on that and the genie's backstory?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
So episode 4 is the genie's backstory, and then 100 years ago. That's cool. Okay, so do you want to work on the ending of this? Like, what do you think a resolution is? So if the first wish is to get whatever he needs, and he finds things, so he probably solves a crime, right? Or
I'm not even sure. I think with the gun, if we go, and we don't have to, we're not married to this idea, of course, is if the gun comes out at the end of the first episode, and even if it's not loaded, by the end, the last episode needs to be, why was that gun important? And I think that maybe it's something to the effect where someone of great importance that hasn't been even shown up until maybe the second to last episode or something, where that gun is obviously needed to absolve them of a crime and something to that effect. And so then he presents it and it helps this person who in turn is important. Maybe it's the attorney general or something. I don't know, but to where
what if the gun not working is the reason
important?
That's important.
What if it's he uses it to like threaten someone even though it's not loaded? Like it gets him out of a situation just by its presence?
Well, I was thinking more of like, what if it's like a weird looking gun, a very like specific looking gun, and somebody's on camera having this gun, and when he gets it, then it turns out like this gun it's like a replica gun. It's like you couldn't have done the crime. It's not real or something. I like the idea of like the gun not working tying into the end. We can get back to that. So this is in Georgia, right?
Yeah,
is that what you said?
Sure.
Yeah. All right. So the Georgian mafia.
My brain is going to the gun being a prop they need for a stage production, and he just completely misinterprets it.
Oh, and he takes it as like a murder thing.
Yeah.
And at the end, he's like, "This is a prop gun. Like, this is for your show. What are you talking about?"
Something like that, maybe.
Oh, that's funny. And he kind of gets in this big, huge mob thing for no reason.
Yeah. Maybe even the third wish is that whole thing. He's finally just sick of it all, and he's tells the genie, he's like, I wish I knew what this gun was for. And he's like, it was for your stage production, moron.
That's the third wish. Yeah. Third wish is, what's the gun for?
You know, because this whole episode, he's somehow or another, he still ends up getting away from the mob, and somehow or another they end up arrested and out of his life or whatever.
Putting on
Something
the stage,
stupid.
stage adaptation of Scarface.
Yeah. Or Assassin. Okay, so
or since he's, you know what, maybe part of the thing is too is maybe his ambition was to be more than a prop guy. He wanted to be a writer, but he didn't have a good idea. And this whole series, yeah, the genie is like, he's like, what's this for? He's like, I wanted to give you your big break and your story so you could write this great stage play or whatever. And then he's like, he's the one that you find out wrote the play because really it all happened to him. So it's almost like
we do a reference. We do a Charlie Kaufman thing where it zooms out at the end and it's all happening on stage and he's in the audience.
Yeah, and he's like,
yeah, exactly.
Just clapping hard.
I'm tempted. So there are a few. This is for all the folks at home looking for writing advice from someone who's hardly qualified to give it. So there are a few writing tropes and storytelling techniques that tend to make their appearances in what some people would call novice productions. And I don't mean that disparagingly. The idea that the story starts with a character waking up in the morning so that we can start the day with them and meet them and see their routine and learn from them to see how they prepare. That's something that's done a lot. In genre writing like sci-fi fantasy, a lot of times a character will be introduced to them walking off of a ship into a new setting. That's very common because they get introduced to the environment. And one of these tropes that you see fairly often is the idea that the main character is a writer and uses the events in the story to write their piece, which is put on at the end of the play.
Yeah.
And I say this because a friend of mine and I did this in high school, where the play is the inspiration for the story that is being told.
Yeah.
So while I like that input, I am kind of averse to doing that particular thing. Yeah. And that's a personal thing on my end.
No, that's fine.
And partially because I think
what would actually be funny is if he wrote it and then he's sitting there clapping, but everybody else is booing and like
they all hate it.
Trash.
Or it just doesn't sell. He tries to sell it and it's just nobody bites.
Yeah, so
and it's like
so he thought it was and then that really leads to a second season or whatever, because then the second season he's wondering what did this failure do, because they said that this was all part of the genie's plan. He wanted me to do this, but I failed. Why is that? And then that's
episode 6 has a dramatic swerve where it's him trying to sell his written piece and he's like, well, I suppose I learned a really valuable lesson about the importance of hard work.
That's not a trope at all.
So like the genie at the end was like, I wanted you to be a writer. You're not a good writer.
I know you wanted it to try, so you completed it.
Yeah.
You finished your work, and he goes, everybody's telling me it's trash. And she goes, you just wanted to write it. You didn't want to sell it. I want to sell it now.
You should have wished to be a good writer, not to be a writer.
That feels like such a Shaggy Dog ending. I'm not against it, I guess.
I'm fine with that.
That just turns the entire thing into a farce.
Yeah, because you think about like by episode 2 and 3, people are like, what is happening with this mom? What is going on here? And at the end it's like, oh, it's just because he's just a crappy writer.
It's kind of like the Monty Python ending. So,
yeah, no, I like that. I think that's really cool.
It's ridiculous, but who knows? You knew what you were getting when you had me on the show.
That's fine. No,
we haven't written something like this before.
There's also a concept rife with the opportunity for just nonsense.
Yeah, true. Do you want to throw some more characters into this, or is this?
I think
just
so.
Yeah.
I think we should try.
Cast, right?
So I think we should try and get something big for episode 5, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is going to be the end of that second act.
Yeah.
Whereas we have these arcs where it's like, first sets it up, second one expands it, third one has that halfway point, status quo change. Mm-hmm. Fourth one has that
tone
shift where we get the genie backstory and we get some info that is relevant to the current stuff. So we need a 5th episode thing that sets us up for the finale and has some dramatic moments in it. Excuse me, to make it
So this seems like this would be the part where he confides in friends, and the friends are like, you kind of always wanted to write a story. This is a pretty good topic. And they maybe introduce the idea of him like, hey, maybe that's what this is the whole time, is I'm supposed to be a writer. Is that what this is? Like, is this is it that scene? Or is that
that works. I mean, that works.
Because we gotta tie that into something.
We do.
Right?
We
and
do.
The gun is what people the fake Chekhov's gun is what people think is like the you know what I mean? So we're gonna pull a rug out from the Chekhov's gun.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's only been in every episode up until now, so it has to be used. And come to find out, it's not used at all.
The main character at some point is just like, this all feels like a lot, and the genie's like, I don't know. Like from my point of view, this is all just like, every 100 years something like this happens.
Yeah, this is the easiest thing I've done in a while.
Yeah.
Just found out the genie's an asshole, and aren't genies generally assholes?
Yes, historically and in standard mythology, a genie wishes more of a curse than anything else.
Yeah, like they'll give you what you kind of want, but in their way, which is that monkey paw fashion. So I'm assuming that this episode 5 ends with the guy looking at the gun and be like, "What is this for? What is this for?" That is it. One of those kind of things.
The 5th episode ends with that.
Yeah.
I don't even know we have that scene planned. I think it's just like we constantly see him like readjusting it.
Oh, okay.
He's carrying it around just in case he needs it, and he goes, "I don't know what use this is for." I think, or do we find out it's a prop gun at the end of the second one?
No. Well, we just know that he tries to use it and it doesn't work.
Right.
And that's at the end of episode 2.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's when he uses his second wish to get out because the gun doesn't work.
I have the second wish at the end of 3 or in 3 because he's captured probably in 3, and at the end of 3 he probably uses a wish to get out.
Okay, so the end of 2 is he tries to use a gun to no avail.
Yeah.
End of 3 is using his second wish.
Yeah.
Which is okay. That's cool. Yeah. So all right, so where do we tie in that he's always wanted to write?
I think we can work that in. I think 5 should have some sort of dramatic encounter with the actual mob guys because he escapes at the end of 3.
Okay.
And that's when they realize that there might be a genie involved. Do we want the 4th episode flashback to show like the last dawn of this mob interacting with the last person who had the genie lamp?
So the mob
has been chasing the lamp for the past 100 years or so.
Yeah, and it could be like the great grandson because this has been the story passed down, and maybe it's one of those things where even the original person that had the lamp 100 years ago was actually in the mob. And they were taking advantage of it. And so they knew the powers of it and they were kind of passed on. But come to find out, even though and this is all off camera, maybe it ended up being tragic to them as well, even though maybe they even like as the guy's dying, as the mobster's dying, I wish I wouldn't have fucked with that genie or whatever. But then, but it goes through where, sorry about the F. My bad. mess with the genie.
Don't acknowledge it, and people probably won't notice.
Just keep talking.
I've been pretty good up until now.
Oh yeah.
So long and short is maybe we take and in this kind of theoretical world, maybe the genie caused distress to the mob, but as time has gone on, still the other mobsters saw all the good it brought. So even though they were thinking, it went from being the guy who has actually had the genie ends up dying because of the genie or whatever. But then the rest of the mob is like, well, that wouldn't have happened to me because I would have used it different. It had to be on him. So they're still chasing the genie.
Yeah.
And actually, if you want to, I mean, technically, and because if we haven't decided that the end is kind of that Shaggy Dog ending, maybe the mob gets the genie back for the last wish, this mobster that's been chasing them the whole show, and then he gets that third wish. He's been thinking the whole time, or maybe we don't even, that's where we flash it back. So say like we know that the mob had the genie and it shows the first 2 wishes of all the mob stuff doing well for the mob, the genie doing well for the mob back in the 1920s. So they know this exists. Then at the last episode, they get the guy, they get the genie, they make the final wish. It ends up cursing them pretty much. But then come to find out in reality, you can even do a flashback to the 20s where you show the last wish of the last mob member that had it. And he actually passed away and was like, I wish I wouldn't have messed with the genie. So kind of they get it again. 100 years prior, the genie kind of cursed them. And 100 years later, the genie curses them. It would have cursed this guy, but he's kind of our hero anyway. So in reality, what saves him is the fact that he didn't get his third wish.
They make like an incautious wish and it kind of twists on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what if the mob wasn't bad?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like their wish was like something good.
They're they're like ends justify the means type of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're after and it probably would have been easier if they had just asked him.
Yeah.
But they're like, we're not in the business of asking people for things.
We just want world peace.
Wait, yeah, that's every mob I know.
So you remember the end of Trap Fruit, where we had the dark ending epilogue, where it's like they create their plant, but it kind of like overgrows the world.
Yeah.
Are we gonna do kind of like a dark ending twist of this, where it's like, I wish for world peace, and all of a sudden it's like
all humans fade away.
Either humans fade away, or like aliens invade to force like a united human front or something. That's been done, but you know what I mean.
Do you think the last episode should be the mob getting the third wish, or the guy using his third wish and the mob getting the lamp, setting up for the
setting
future?
up 100 years for them to have it?
So like, hey, the sequel's in 100 years.
We could do sci-fi genies. Sci-fi mobster genie?
Yeah, time traveling mobster genie.
That's a lot. Sci-fi mobster genie.
Sometimes the more adjectives you throw on your genre, the easier it is, because you only have so many things you can do to make sense. Or you just have the freedom to do whatever you want.
That's true. We're at the hour mark. Do you want to wrap this up? Or not wrap it up?
Wrap it up.
No, not wrap it up.
Oh, no.
No.
Our runtime's been cut.
No.
So, hi, everyone at home. This is Talking Upstream. My name is Dylan. This is Zach. We are joined here by our friend Mikey from Wack Brackets podcast. And this is Talking Upstream, a 90-minute writer's room in which Zach and I and our guest, if they're willing to stick around, bring some ideas to the table. We choose one, we focus on that, and spin it into something that we can potentially build on later. This week, the chosen idea was Dark Genie / Swiss Army Pants
/ First Wish.
/ First Wish. In which a guy finds a genie, makes a wish that he could reach into his pocket and get whatever he needs to work that current situation to his favor. Everything seems to be going kind of fun. He's having some shenanigans. Then he pulls out a gun. And there's mobs involved and general genie nonsense.
Yeah, just some all-around tomfoolery.
Yeah. Little limited series for you.
Yeah.
HBO, if you're I know you're watching. I know you watch.
Yeah, please. So we're saying it's a 6-episode mini-series.
Yeah.
I think that's cool. I think we need to work on the characters a little more, because right now they're just a person. So what do you think this mob's up to? Do we need to know? Are they like Chicago-style gangsters, like Suits?
I don't think so.
Or is it a cool mob, like Axe Mob or something?
Ooh, Axe Gang? Hatchet Gang?
Yeah, something like that.
I think...
A trowel troop. Got a bunch of trowel.
Shovel squad.
They're professional dancers.
That's not bad. We can go like Warriors route and pick like a weird
rival theater company.
An improv troupe.
Okay, so how wacky are we gonna go with this?
Well, it's a genie.
It's already pretty nuts.
Yeah, I
like the idea that no matter what they're looking for, no matter what they're trying to do, I like the idea that they present an actual threat.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah.
I don't think we should make them like shtick.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. Yeah, they are threatening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Georgia mob. I don't know what Atlanta's like organized crime scene is like.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's hot. It's hot there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's hot Atlanta.
Yeah.
What
do you call it when like a piece of property is sought after by the police? You call it hot? No.
I think it's if it's stolen.
Right, but what do you call that? There's a specific
property.
Specific term for stolen property.
Yeah, well, a hot item is stolen property. Hot goods.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Doesn't sound right, but I think it might be.
Something that's hot is a stolen thing. I learned that from Fast and the Furious.
Okay, then yes.
Yeah. So hot properties.
Yeah.
What are you talking about then?
I lost my train of thought partway through that conversation. Let's skip back to what the mafia is doing. So
properties.
I think part of what they're doing should spin off from the wishes they made in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what wish did they make in the 20s? 1920.
I mean, they could make a wish to be bootleg, like the top bootleggers, and then suddenly Prohibition ends.
Yeah, when does Prohibition end? Prohibition was from 20 to 33.
Yeah, 33.
1920 to 33.
So that can't happen unless they wish to be the only makers of alcohol and then prohibition.
That was the wish. Maybe is it was legal to do alcohol until 1920, and they wished for prohibition because they already had all the stills and everything, and they knew how to run the alcohol.
That's not bad.
Underground. Yeah, so they wish for prohibition.
It also kind of explain how prohibition came to be. That's nuts.
Yeah. So okay,
just the scale of it.
So we're going to flashback in episode 5 to 1920s where they wish for prohibition.
I think so.
And that's when they killed somebody to get the third wish, and that's what they wish for there, which would make the viewers of this think that they're going to kill this guy to get his third wish.
Yeah.
Right? That's cool. Yeah, I'm into that. What would their wish be now?
Maybe they even try to wish for prohibition again. I don't know, or maybe they'd stop the legalization of marijuana.
I was kind of leaning in that direction as well.
Or mushroom. Yeah, just recreational.
Another substance being banned.
Yeah.
I like it, but I think it should, instead of repeating it, I think we should rhyme with it. So they're trying to corner the market on something that's more relevant to 2023 or wherever this is set.
Yeah, but also they've been wanting this thing for 100 years, so there is that back thought of like they've been thinking about this for a while,
which is why I think it should be similar to what they did previously without being a direct repeat.
Well, last time they stopped prohibition. How about this time? Let's get more kind of off the rails. Maybe they own the supply chain for Oxy or whatever, so they want to legalize it because they already have the supply chain, and they know that they could literally own the entire supply chain tomorrow. That
does make them more overt villains.
Yeah, I'm okay with them being.
I'm fine with that too.
Yeah, I was just joking with them being good people.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're gonna. They're the mob in Atlanta. So they are trying to corner the market on what pharmaceutical.
Could be pharmaceuticals.
Opiates.
Let's see. Metropolitan Atlanta drug abuse trends.
Or is it a cure for something?
Well, it's relevant now, but we'll avoid that.
Oh, I mean, like an AIDS cure, a cancer cure.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what if, like, the insulin?
Insulin makes them very villainous if they're trying to corner the market on that with magic.
So what do they wish for? That they corner the market because they own all the insulin. So like,
what if this is less mafia and you find out in like episode 5 that it's like
big pharma,
the underground like fixers for a pharmaceutical company.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah, they went to pharmaceuticals.
This literally could be tied to the mob.
Yeah.
So big pharma is actually the mob, and every 100 years they are on the cusp of stopping something, or controlling something for
at least benefit. This time and last time. Yeah.
So what is it this time? You like the insulin?
I'm leaning towards that because it's still relevant and it's diabetes and it's necessary, but it's also horrifically price fixed in current day.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
What was it in 1820?
What was the insulin?
No, what was their thing?
Oh, in 1920?
1820.
Oh, I assumed that 1920 was the first time they had done it. And 1820 was just someone else with a genie lamp. Unless we want them to be like a secret organization of genie chasers.
I think
let me see.
I think from my knowledge, if they've been doing this throughout history, like corner, like 1820, the Black Plague thing, or whenever that was. I'm not saying that's when it was, but just something like that. The
You're off by 1,000 years.
Spanish Fly or whatever. There's gotta be something in 1820 that like they whatever. We'll get back to that. So big pharma, they're doing the insulin thing this time. What ties them into this? Is it that they know that character 1 bought the lamp?
I think he outbids them in some way.
Yeah, like their internet goes down or something.
It's a direct failing of the people who work for them, and he manages to sneak in the winning bid.
Cool.
Yeah. So now, you guys do internet. It's not always consistent. So you're sitting there with your little eBay snipe, and you're thinking, "Oh, well, we're going to get this," and you set the high bid, or whatever, or maybe they hired somebody that. Usually, the way this works, as you know, is especially with the mob, it's going to be like, "Wow, little Joey, you see here, he's like the nephew of Big Meatball Tony," and it's like little Joey doesn't know anything about the internet, and he's sitting here actually trying to hammer fist out eBay bids instead of using a sniper, And then next thing you know, his internet goes down right before the bid happens, and then he loses out. So little Joey's just messes up, and they know the name, or they know the winning bidder, and then they just go after him. So,
you know what was a massive commodity in the 1820s in the South?
What?
Cotton.
Oh God.
You can make them real villainous.
Oof, okay. Yeah, okay, I'm into that.
Yeah. That's
18.
well, the good news
1820.
is we don't even have to worry about the 1820s yet. If you want to have a second season, that's where you could even do the flashbacks of 1820s, and 1720s, 1620s.
Yeah, I just need in my brain to find out who these people are.
Yeah.
I need a little more backstory. Like it is almost like a
They're the Illuminati.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like they've been doing this since like, the dawn of time, since the dawn of genies.
Yeah.
Were the jinns were the first genies?
Sure. It depends on the mythology
Sure.
you follow. I don't think we need to worry about that for this.
Well, I got to worry about this. I'm writing stuff.
Okay.
All right. So what's next? We got to work on our character.
Let me get some character work done.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So character one is they're a prop master, small town. I think they want to be a writer.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
I'm fine with that happening.
Okay. Is it a boy or girl?
Let's make it a female. Just
Cool.
for I mean
When it
it's
is.
easy. Yeah, it's
Okay. Female. What's her name? Claire? Rebecca? Jehoshaphat?
Cassie?
Cassie?
Audrey.
Sandra?
Audrey?
Audrey?
I'm okay with Audrey.
Yeah.
Okay, so Audrey is a prop master in a Georgia, Atlanta, I guess a suburb of Atlanta. Right?
Yeah.
We'll figure that out later. So in Atlanta, community theater troupe, she wants to be a writer, and she.
Have we decided? Let me ask you this: at the end, have we decided? Are we getting rid of the original ending where it's kind of all ties together? Because she doesn't have to be a writer at this point.
Well, I think that it still works.
I think it still works to
And-
include that. And I kind of like it
I think
as
it's
like,
funny because like
Yeah.
everyone's going to think up here that this gun is a big deal, and
Yeah.
that's what her thing
and then
is.
people are going to think the genie's a big deal.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
the mob, the bad guys have such high, like lofty aspirations.
Yeah.
And it turns out, and you wanted to be a writer. So this gun, I mean, why did you get involved in this? Because I got that gun out of my pocket. Well, yeah, there you go. It was what you needed to write this. And she's like,
Yeah.
that's kind of messed up. And she
Yeah.
goes, I don't know, I'm a genie. I don't have morals.
Yeah, what do you do? Yeah.
We could include a joke about women's clothing not having pockets.
Love
So
that.
she has to make men's jeans.
Yeah, she's pulling out a tiny coin pocket for no reason.
Or she's like she goes to like pull something out in public, and she pulls something really big out of a tiny pocket.
Oh.
She's like, I gotta prepare for this, I guess.
And then other girls like, whoa, that's a lot.
Where'd
of
you get
pocket
those
space.
jeans?
Where'd you get that dress? Oh, what a great pocket. Okay, so Audrey,
Audrey.
that's cool. She bids on the lamp.
Yeah.
For the show.
Yeah.
They're doing a traveling version of Live Aladdin. Disney's Live Aladdin
Sure.
traveling.
Traveling?
Well, because they're in Atlanta.
Are they not putting a show on in Atlanta? Are they not Atlanta based?
Well, it's a community theater.
Yeah.
Wait,
do
wouldn't
they not
travel
have
too far.
community theaters in Atlanta?
oh, I meant like a traveling show. Like it's not the Broadway version of it. It's like it's the
Oh,
little-
they got the rights to do it.
Right,
or
they got the
something.
rights to it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
sure.
forgot.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think I
gotcha.
just-
I thought you
Okay.
meant like a traveling troupe, and I'm like,
No.
what year is it?
traveling improv troupe. No, I mean it's like a not traveling.
Yeah.
Community theater thing of that. And it's her job to get that, which is cool. And then she wishes for, I think that's cool. She wishes to always have the things she needs.
Yeah.
Because she's looking for inspiration. She's looking
Yeah.
for whatever. What other characters do we want to call? What kind of genie is this?
So I think the genie, male presenting or female presenting
I've
genie?
never seen a female genie.
I Dream of Genie,
Touche.
the first one in popular culture.
Sorry,
beyond,
I guess I forgot about the '60s sitcom show. Yeah, sure, okay. Female genie.
Hey,
but
it could
not
be,
like
yeah.
No, I'm cool with that. But not.
You
like-
know what?
not-
I think maybe a male genie, since we got a female lead.
Could be. I mean, could be either. Could be a low key style where they just change their.
Very
just shows up
asexual
differently.
genie.
Yeah.
Kind of like Pat from Saturday Night Live, if you remember that character.
They show up and it's just like. I mean, what do you want? Like
What do you want me to be?
What do you want me? What do you want me to be? Do you want me to be
Yeah.
this? Do you want me to be that?
It shows up like a girl, like, oh, it's a girl genie. Like, do you want me to be a guy? I'll be a guy.
Hey,
whatever.
whatever you're more comfortable talking to.
Yeah. Like, yeah, sex is a you guys thing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So there is a.
Do you want to give him a name?
Yes. The genie's name is.
Shoot. You got me. Let me think.
What's a genie name?
She got me.
She got me? No.
No.
ShamWow. No.
What if it's just like, what do I call you?
Bob.
Call me what you wish.
Yeah. Can I call you Frank?
If you wish.
Sure.
If you like.
Yeah, he's a genie.
You said if I wish. Does that mean that's one of my wishes? No, it's a matter of speaking.
Dude, the genie. Do you need a name?
Yeah.
How many genies are you? I'm the genie.
Yeah,
The singular.
So that's their name.
That's his name. Is just the.
Yep,
Played by DJ Khaled. I'm
God,
the genie.
Jason Derulo. Okay, so
Pops out. Jason Derulo.
Oh, this genie.
Never mind.
I'd rather the Will
Never
Smith
mind.
genie.
Just bury it.
Okay, what else we got to work on here? We know that the
I think we need a few more characters. Even straight up, because I think while all this nonsense is going on, Audrey is going to be juggling escaping these people and also trying to do her theater work.
True.
Yeah.
So I think we need like the director of the show, like the theater master. I don't know.
He's a jerk.
Yeah.
He's a jerk.
So he's like a failed actor. Kind
of course, yeah.
Yeah. So, small town.
And then we have a small cast. And I guess Audrey's gonna need like a friend to bounce stuff off, and that's when you get the idea that Audrey wants to be a writer. So,
I'm imagining this theater master played by Steve Coogan, and I don't know why.
Dude, that's perfect.
Putting the accent on.
Yeah, Steve Coogan can do anything. Now we need somebody in the cast that Audrey's friends with. What other cast members are there? It will be the tiger, right? Jasmine's tiger.
It's her friend's first theatrical performance. She auditioned. She got cast in the role of the tiger.
Yeah. So the friend is the tiger role. Jasmine's kind of a jerk. Aladdin's probably a jerk.
They're all stuck up.
Yeah.
Lead roles in small town community theater production.
Dude,
it's a
I
thing.
know those people. Yeah.
Me too.
I know those people. Okay, so what else we work on here?
We got Meatball Tony.
Meatball Tony's a big deal. Yeah, I wrote that down.
He's an enforcer of some sort.
Yeah.
Maybe. Who's the main? So we need the leader of this group, whether the whole organization or just the collective going after her.
Yeah.
We need the people who pursue her on the ground.
Right.
So the goons.
Yeah. And the goon leader.
Yeah, I think Meatball Tony could technically be the goon leader, but he's not the main goon, so to speak.
No.
He's not the one doing the footwork that's after her.
No, and then someone needs to be the one who is like given the mobster wish, like the one they're kind of like, once we get the lamp, we hand it off to so and so because.
Yeah, so it obviously has to be the person that messed up the eBay order or the Facebook order. So they got to go back and they go, listen, little Joey, like you need to do this. You're the reason we're here to begin with.
Little Joey, and he has like a fledgling music career out of Atlanta.
Little Joey, who's 7'1".
Yeah. He's wishing he were like Ludacris, but he's not.
Oh, at the end, he's like, do I help you guys or do I wish to be sure? Okay, so we have most of the people in the theater troupe. We have our main character. We have our genie, who's named which is cool. Where else are we at here? We have our six solid episodes. Well, I think 2 should get maybe a little bit more worked out.
Yeah.
And then what's the end again?
So I have written down for the end. The third wish is knowing that the gun was a prop for the stage production, so that she learns she wanted to be a writer.
Mm-hmm.
But then we also had the idea that the mob could get the final wish and accidentally curse themselves or something.
Yeah, I think that the mob should not get the final wish.
Okay.
They should be there when the final wish is there. And that's like their big disappointment is like, that's all you wanted to wish for was a friggin' story?
And they get the spent lamp?
Yeah.
Or does the lamp just disappear and then reappear 100 years later?
No, I think they get it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Because
Okay.
It's like, okay, there's a cliffhanger for way later.
They have to wait 100 years.
Yeah, but they're in possession of it.
Yeah.
So they have 100 years.
Or what happens is whole time they've been chasing this lamp and then come to find out because the genie's in the lamp, but we could even have where there's something else in the lamp that incriminates the mob. So at the end, they have the lamp. They think this is a good thing. The cops come in. They're in possession of the lamp that says, "Hey, this is a stolen lamp, or it's got something in it." And then it looks like the mob has stolen the lamp when in reality they haven't had it this whole episode.
So the lamp itself was a murder weapon?
Or a museum piece that got stolen.
Oh, stolen museum piece.
Or it actually has a murder weapon inside of it. Something to that effect.
I do. Yeah, I'm cool with that. Like, once the mob gets it, then it's a detriment to them.
It's incriminating.
Yeah, so either a murder weapon or I think stolen from a museum. Because then you can say, like, that's how all this stuff was beginning. Like, it was big museum swipe. People were selling stuff on Facebook. And Audrey just happened to get this friggin' thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this fell off the back of a truck or something. And
classic.
Yeah, the old fall off the back of the truck trope.
Yeah. Like speakers outside of a Sears.
Yeah.
That's how I got mine.
Okay, so where else are we at in this? So we're gonna finish with it. She writes a story, and that was ultimately her real wish because she's selfish, I guess. That's fine.
So the second episode we have written down that she sees the mob and thinks the gun is for the mob boss, but it doesn't work. That feels really bold for her. You know what I mean?
Well, I think maybe even in the first episode, maybe she keeps finding things in her pocket and she's getting bold. She starts off finding out the floss or whatever, and then then all of a sudden it's this, she goes up and she wants to buy something crazy, and she gets something crazy off the shelf, like an expensive watch or something, and then all of a sudden she has $20,000 in her pocket. It's like, oh my goodness, this can do anything for me. So she kind of gets this confidence, this false confidence. So when she pulls the gun out, it becomes, well, of course I'm going to use this to protect myself because nothing goes wrong. It's all working out for me.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
it doesn't work. Yeah, I think that's interesting. I also like a scene where maybe she really wants this expensive thing, so she thinks she's going to pull the money out, and she actually pulls the watch out, and the people are like, "Are you stealing?" And she's like, "No."
That's not bad.
Yeah,
what else you got there? Nothing, and she just pulled more watches out.
She pulls a watch out. She pulls like a memory card that has footage of her not stealing the watch on it.
She's like, faster shoes for her run.
But I think this has video of me
This will help.
And everybody's just like looking at her, and she just leaves.
I didn't do it. Yeah, I think that's funny. And I think
there's a lot of room for comedy in these first two episodes.
And I think that'll help. Like, once this gun almost gets fired, then it goes dark for a little bit.
2 episodes or so.
And then we know, like, the mob is here. Like, they're trying to get this wish. The mob knows about things. Then we get that flashback to the mob being like real grimy in the 1920s.
I think we should have. I think fourth episode should be half flashback, half current day stuff, and they just kind of alternate scenes.
The only thing that I agree. The only thing that I think we're missing is the person who informs somebody of something. Like, no one's telling the genie rules. No one's explaining the genie stuff. So either we just kind of go with it, like, we know this is a genie. We know the genie. Is that where we're going with?
I assume the genie would be the one to like show up and be like, "Yes, I am back. All right, 3 wishes."
Wait, the exposition appearance? It is me after 100 years, and only one.
I mean,
person
not so blunt, but like Audrey would ask, like, okay, like she's doing Aladdin, so she knows what genies are.
What if like the Tiger Friend did so much research to get in this role?
She wanted to be the genie role.
She knows everything about genies.
Oh yeah,
that's what.
Well, historically, the genie myth was actually not the start of.
Did I even call genies? I called gins.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
it's like, well, we're not drinking on stage. Hey, you know what I mean?
Get out of here! And she pulls out gin in her pocket. I didn't want this.
Pulls out a shot glass.
Yeah. All right, where do you want to go with this now? I think we have a really good. I think the genie's got a cool characterization. I think the mob has a good backstory. I think that Audrey has a great backstory.
I think we need to figure out what the half of episode 4 is that takes place in the modern day. Because episode 3 ends with Audrey wishing herself free from the mafia, and they know that she has it.
Yeah, I think that somehow Audrey has to get the information that the mob has been doing this for a while. So maybe I don't think it should come from the genie itself.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know how, but at some point, Audrey needs that knowledge, and she pulls out a scroll. And
she pulls out the script.
The script for the show. She's like, First wish. This is interesting. Oh, what's that? That's crazy.
That's a different. That's a short we're doing. That's different. We'll file that away.
Fifth wall breaking.
Well, you keep saying saying like things aren't going to end well. Like, what are you talking about? Well, I mean,
just look at the last page of the script.
Zack and Dylan gave me the script. What do you mean he gave you the script? I mean, he gave me the script. They only gave me my lines. They gave you the whole script.
I think I'm going to stop watching the show.
Yeah, everybody stops after that episode. Just like, all right, this is getting
I don't
too.
know what these guys are up to. Who's the
They
head
need a
of
better editor?
Yeah, we know. Who's the head of Big Pharma? Is it a person? Is it the Penguin?
Is it an AI?
An AI?
What's the opposite of a person?
Well, I mean, like, is it one person?
Like
is it a collective?
A brain in a jar?
Is it like a Knight Templar?
Oh, I see.
Is it?
I think it's a. I mean, you know, not that we have to throw in all of Big Pharma. I'm sure there are Big Pharma people that are good people. I just wouldn't know of any. But there's got to be at least one. But I think that this is probably not the head of Big Pharma. This could be like the secondary, like the vice president or whatever. And he's trying to get the promotion, etc. And this is going to be a big to do for him. Now he may be. Come to find out, he may be being pushed by someone above him. We don't know, but definitely he's not the head honcho.
It would be funny if like this is like the magical sect of Big Pharma to go, look, we don't think this is going to work, but we have to just give them like a little bit of money. So there's like this offshoot of Big Pharma. It's like the magical part.
Apothecary, apothecary. It's the board and just a bunch of identical like crew cut people in like tight, sharp suits.
Oof, nice. It's just a bunch of floating tablets, and that's it.
It's a brain in a jar.
Yeah, it's old iPod shuffles.
we go like old weird John Carpenter with it, and it's like we see the meeting of the board of it. It's like everybody rise, and they rise up, and someone has like a 2-wheel like dolly, and they're just wheeling a jar full of like a giant brain.
Oh.
It set it down and turn. It's like. And then, of course, everybody stops watching.
It's like a long last dinosaur that can speak. It's wheeled in.
It's so
That's stupid.
obviously not. No, I like the idea I like the idea that it's like an old organization that's kind of worked their way up into this position.
Yeah.
It's like Meatball Tony's. Come to find out, it's like Meatball Tony's uncle is like in Big Pharma. So the Big Pharma and the mob have had all these ties together for years.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I love it. That's it.
I think that's about it.
Joey Bag of Donuts.
Joe Bag of Donuts.
Joey Bag of Donuts. We're it. That's our time. Oh, that's great. This is a weird story. I kind of like this one.
This is a weird one.
Yeah, this is.
I like it.
I always like when things kind of wrap like that. That's
yeah.
Cool. Mikey, thank you so much for hanging out. We really, really appreciate it. I definitely, for 100% sure, no, we would not have come up with this if it was not for your help. And this is interesting. So we're going to keep working on this. All right. But before we let you go, if you want to let people know one last time who you are, where to find you, et cetera, et cetera.
I can do it. Yeah. This is Mike with Wack Brackets, the podcast, which is a podcast, just a podcast, not about podcasts, but just a podcast. But you can get any of the social media platforms at Wack Brackets. Again, reach out to me. Give me ideas. Mikey at Wack Brackets, Talking Upstream at wackbrackets.com, wherever. Long story short, you can reach out to me on all the social media platforms, but more importantly, you can check out my podcast as well as check out these guys, the Some Nobodies Media. Pretty much their entire catalog is fire, as the kids may say. As all those kids may say, these guys are fire. They're lit. But no, Zack, Dylan, thank you guys for having me on. This has been a blast. Hopefully, it wasn't too crazy. Again, I tend to go off to crazy tangents, and I think you guys helped me reel me in. So.
No, that's what we do.
Yeah, it is.
Literally, this show is a 90-minute tangent.
That's it. Your 90-minute tangent is the blurb.
That's our next show idea, 90-minute tangent. Okay, folks, thank you very much for watching. We really appreciate it. Like Dylan said, this is Dylan, and I'm Zack, and we are Some Nobodies. You can go to somenobodies.com and see all the weird stuff that we're creating as we edit these things down, as we're trying to get people going. We have actors in our team. We have musicians in our team. We're really trying to create a whole bunch of weird stuff. If you want to help us, support us, really kind of push us into making some more stuff, you can always go to patreon.com/somenobodies and help us out. Some people that do help us out, Scott Curtis over at Behind the Bits podcast. He's been awesome. He's a super fan, and it is equal. We love that guy. He's great. We have Tanya Sheck. We have our friend Sarah Takancic. We have Listener app. We got a whole bunch of stuff going on, guys. So please check us out. Check out Wack Brackets.
Yeah.
And come back next week and see what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, that's it. There it is.